Hi folks, my name is Alvin Ng. I'm a professor of psychology at Sunway University. And here today we have Miss Jochebed Isaacs, who's the director of Early Autism Project Malaysia, also known as EAP Malaysia. And we're going to have Miss Isaacs answer a few questions on autism, especially on autism among tertiary students, college and university students. So Jochebed, thank you so much for being with us today this morning and taking some time off your very busy schedule. So the first question from me to you is, what are the very common misconceptions about autism in general?
Thank you so much, Dr. Alvin and Sunway University for this opportunity and for raising awareness on autism, which ultimately impacts acceptance in our community as well. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Well, there are a number of different misconceptions when it comes to autism, but I guess the most prevalent one is actually the understanding of the spectrum. So we often watch movies of autism and we either perceive them as this sort of genius talent, movies that we watch, and it kind of portrays that in a very glamorous sort of light, and then or you've got the very severe extreme end. So sometimes when people think about autism, they still may think either very severely affected or, oh, they must be a genius and they have some kind of musical or some kind of mathematical genius talent. So that misconception of what actually autism is and how it does affect an individual, because whether the child has a little bit of autism or a lot of autism, the autism still impacts in a very similar way, which is in those areas of language, in those areas of social skills, and in those areas of repetitive or restricted behaviors, rigidities, the autism type behaviors, whether it's stimming, sensory related, inflexibility, obsessive interest, all those, they're still the same. So you would see it in very, very mild, you would see much more subtle signs, but very severe, you would see, of course, much more prevalent symptoms. But then that brings me to, I guess, a concern, because if we're not very clear on the spectrum, then there is a misconception about the diagnosing part of it. So then there can be either a misdiagnosis or a late diagnosis, especially with the children that do, when they're much younger, they do show very minimal symptoms, or parents may not be really able to monitor those developmental milestones. So oftentimes, I mean, years ago when EAP first started, we would really see children only at 6 or 7, because before they enter school, then they are not accepted into school. So then they come to see us. But now, because of great autism awareness programs, globally, everybody's talking about autism. Many more families come much earlier, even as young as 18 months, 2 years old, 20 months, saying that I feel my child's not meeting those milestones. And so that diagnosis portion is very important, because of course, as you know, Dr. Alvin, the earlier we diagnose, the earlier you can intervene. But unfortunately, that is still a fear and a challenge for many families in Malaysia. And then, of course, then it comes with, once you get the diagnosis, then it's the expectations of that child's performance. Can they progress and be so it all comes back to this understanding of the spectrum, because once a parent gets the diagnosis, sometimes for parents, it's like a double heartbreak, because the first time you find out that your child has autism, but then you then have to reach a reality where, oh dear, they're not in that category that is catching up, and in the genius talent, high functioning talent, they are going to have lots of challenges and, for many years of their life. So that's quite challenging for parents. And another misconception is, of course, on the causes. There's still many people who think of vaccines and, kind of worried about that. And especially in this day and age where vaccinations are, a big conversation as well around COVID, it is still a bit there. But I would say the biggest misconception, which would reconcile a number of different areas, would be in the spectrum part of it, and how the symptoms are demonstrated in different ways. Yeah.
Thank you, Jochebed. That's as a whole. And well, I'm coming from the university setting,
Sure.
and we do have many students, college and also university students, who have been diagnosed as being autistic, although mild. with regards to symptoms. And I see that they get a lot of, I guess, stigmatized responses towards them. And obviously that comes from also a lot of misconceptions.
Sure.
So the children you see when they come in for intervention, they also grow up, isn't it? And
yes, exactly.
EAP has been around for 15 years.
Yes.
So I'm sure quite a few of the children you see are now adults and perhaps even going to tertiary education.
Yeah,
if not academic, then perhaps vocational.
Yeah.
And what are some of the misconceptions then, as young adults or teenagers when it comes to people living with autism?
I mean, I think that when it comes to the university level, maybe similar to, we do lots of transitions where children start with us, early intervention, and then we really try our best as a team with the families to prepare them to be ready for typical school integration. And not, as our research shows, almost 50% will be able to do that with this sort of intervention. And even those with this intervention, about 50% won't be able to, because again of the spectrum, IQ levels and so on. Unfortunately, it has had an impact on their cognitive development. So if an individual is able to make it to university, it is very remarkable and incredible. That means they have gone through the primary schools, gone through secondary school, gone through universities, and actually academically are performing to be able to meet that mark and to be able to transition in. So in general, the biggest challenge would be that we would have the expectation, higher expectations of that individual immediately, because they are able to be in a university setting and able to function and able to so-called perform in that sense. So I guess one of the challenges that do come to mind would be the disclosure of it. I have found that in these kind of situations where an individual, first of all, autism has no physical, you can't see it physically. They're able to perform in class and almost maybe be on par or even above average. But then socially, there may be some oddities and some, slight differences. So sometimes it's a question of whether this is an answer, honestly, Dr. Alvin, I'm not sure in our Malaysian context. Is it better to disclose or is it better not to disclose? And this is a challenge that families have had even with transitioning to primary school. Do we tell the school? If we tell the school, they'll say no. But do we tell the university friends? If we tell, then they're going to be, oh, this person got this. But if we don't tell, then maybe the individual with autism may make a socially inappropriate comment or not know how to interact in the group chat or not be invited to that cool after party that all the university students are going for, or go up to a girl and say, I want to marry you, and just not know the right context and the right things to say. So I guess the debate that could come up, maybe even among university students in Autism Month, might be a good discussion point among the other university students. Is it better to disclose or is it better not to disclose? And I think that comes down to also the parents and also the individual. And I found that I think, again, it comes back down to that individual. So in schools, for some kids, the autism is so minimal and very, 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 very subtle symptoms. We pretty much don't disclose. But somehow the children know that there's something a little bit different about that individual. And sometimes they may use the word, oh, that person's a bit special, or just be patient or something. So there is like different effects of it when the children know. And there's actually a research paper that I need to dig up, Dr. Alvin, we read years ago. I don't know whether it was in university. Actually, fun fact, Dr. Alvin was my lecturer in my master's program. But there was this journal article that I remember that how kind the classmates were. They were so much kinder when they knew that individual had some difficulties, when they realized and they knew. And sometimes we ourselves may not be always thinking with the hat, okay, this person has autism or not. You may not be thinking in that way. So you might just be like, this person is, why are they doing that? Why do they keep repeating that? Why do they keep asking? Or why is it quite difficult to communicate? And maybe that will help. But I do think that some of the challenges in universities still can be academic performance. We have a couple of individuals that are brilliant and have worked with them for years, but Academically, it is difficult to keep on par with, especially all the concepts, overlapping, and that sort of more comprehensive type of understanding and vastness of learning, as well as sometimes self-organization of meeting all the deadlines, coordinating all your things, like there's a bit of that attention deficit there that sometimes can impact the ability to focus in the class or even perform. It's meeting the expectations of what it means to be a university student. But I know, Dr. Alvin, like I've been in uni as well, it doesn't mean because you have autism, you don't meet that. Like we know plenty of people that do skip classes that know nothing to do with autism, zone out and don't pay attention, nothing to do with autism in their own world. So university is an interesting time for all students in different ways. But I would definitely say the academic expectations can be challenging, but I think more so it would be that social skills challenges. There are so many things happening on university grounds. People meet their spouses on university grounds. People meet their best friends, their lifelong friends. There's so many subtle things that are happening, cliques of friendships, parties, the cool gang. It's so similar to primary school, secondary school. And you wish it kind of go off at work, but maybe even at work, there's a bit of that. So that definitely is one of the challenges. So how do we then help to coach our individual with autism through some of that, and whether the university has those resources, but also do we disclose it to the classmates? And lastly would be autism related challenges. Like oftentimes there are genuine like inflexibilities that may be very difficult for that individual to cope. There may be sensorial things that may be difficult for the individual, like maybe too loud the sound, or one of our kids, it was attention of people. So even though he's very capable, he really, really, really doesn't like the attention to be on him, which is difficult because sometimes you might be asked to do a presentation, everybody will clap and everybody will cheer. And so you got to work through some of that. So that would be what we foresee at university levels. Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Jochebed. That's like so comprehensive. There's these expectations, challenge, and also you rightly said, the sensory type sensitivity that people may not be aware of, and that all goes into declare or not to declare. I mean, definitely that's a huge debate, and I think part of the answers would lie in whether the community is ready, and I suppose that's where we go into autism literacy within the community, because when it comes to social issues, social interaction issues, if the people, like you said, are not ready or not familiar with autism, then it might be difficult. So that's a huge challenge in itself, isn't it? Well, this is why we're having this conversation, and we're having this video recorded. It's part of Autism Awareness Month of April.
Absolutely.
And we want to educate as many people as possible. So yeah, I think you were very comprehensive in that, and that itself can already trigger off many discussions. But yeah, I'm also aware that we can't talk for too long in this video. We both have got lots of stuff that we need to continue doing. So to end this short conversation, what are your hopes and dreams regards to autism awareness? And I wouldn't just say awareness, but taking the action to help individuals and families living with autism.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Alvin, for that. I this year we were really reflecting the purpose of, we go really hard and strong for World Autism Month, World Autism Day. And sometimes you wonder whether is this what parents with children with autism, is it meaningful to them? Because for them, every day is World Autism Day. They live, with their child, like it's a reality. So we all do the big, kind of like campaigns and all of that. By the end of the day, we go home to our own homes. Just like being a practitioner, we go back to our own homes, and it's not a part of our lives every single moment, every single minute. So I am sensitive to, like, a parent's perspective may be different. But I know that from a practitioner's perspective, and almost like what we have started to do with our nonprofit and all, is almost become a bit of an advocate as well. And the reason for it is we see the context in Malaysia and the culture and sort of the stigma that many families still face. So it's still not something that I've noticed when I've been in, let's say, overseas, and someone says, you know, you work with kids with autism. It's like, oh, my son is autism. My cousin is autism. I think my son has autism. It's not something that it's a celebration, but it's something that is an acceptance. It's like, yeah, my child likes music, and my child is into blocks and Legos. It's almost like that in a Western context, because so many, it's very much more common maybe, but also it's very talked about in classrooms, in schools, among teachers, professionals, medical healthcare. So it's actually very, very at the forefront of conversations the minute a child is born, in the same way of any kind of developmental delays or challenges. And so I feel like just as a country and as a community, if we just continue to have more of this awareness on milestones and those symptoms, and also like the potential of that individual, whereby it's not something that parents are so scared of. And I never want to judge a family that's in denial, because it would be challenging for them to, it's the shattering of your dream for your child. So we gotta be able to like keep gently pushing the awareness, but also then as a society be willing to actually accept. So not just accept, sorry, before accept is be educated. So even understand what is autism. And again, I've shared before that I've met a 9-year-old from Australia, and she said, oh, you work with kids with autism? Oh yeah, there's a boy in my class, he has autism. So this is what we do. And she basically lectured me on what she does with a child with autism as a 9-year-old, you know, and I was impressed by her level of articulation, but also impressed by the school, because they had explained everything so thoroughly, and she was not only aware, she was educated, and she was willing to accept. And so what if we were able to do that, able to explain, but educate them and educate how you can interact and how you can be a help, and then communities can start making those adjustments. So we have got GSC, for example, has released or is starting to release 2 movies. The one is on autism specifically, the reason I jump in this whole season, and they're going to start to have sensory friendly screenings as well. So then they're basically, the cinema is saying, hey, we want to cater for children with autism on this day, or churches start to do that, schools start to do that, universe. So then I would feel as a parent as well, you feel more accepted. There are restaurants you can go to. There's barbers that are trained, hairstylists. So you don't feel so ashamed or like, oh my gosh, is my child going to have a tantrum? Is everyone going to look at me? There's actually a autism friendly or just special needs friendly in any way. It's the same like having ramps for people with wheelchairs, or, you know, Braille, where people who are visually impaired can actually go. And it's us as a society saying, okay, it's not just about us, the majority, but also including and taking care of the others. So, I mean, that's definitely our hope, where then it becomes part of our really everything. It becomes part of our education. It becomes part of our acceptance. And it's not like there is the integration part, but there's also the reality and understanding that some individuals with autism need extra support, need personalized support. So we're not denying that, but we're also not excluding them to say, okay, you then all stay over there and don't, you know, I think there's a lot that we can still do. But Dr. Alvin, compared to when we first started 15 years ago, there's a lot more autism awareness. Like I would say when I first started, people were like, what is autism? Like, is that automobiles? Like, I was like, oh gosh, like it's just no, you know, like they just, it was so like kakak di bawah tempurung at that time with the word autism, but now it's quite a household name. And many people seem to know about it, at least when you meet. They may not know always what's the difference between autism and a different developmental delay or the accuracy, but they've heard of it. And I hope that more and more people will be willing. So as we educate and maybe empower people as well on how to incorporate people with autism, or businesses on how you can make accommodations, then I think we'll see much better progress in years to come.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely. It's something that we hear about more of these days. And I hear you about making the term autism something that is no longer mysterious, that can be accepted, and people know, okay, right, there's certain things that we have to do. And at the same time, to not just empower people, isn't it? We want to empower individuals and their families with autism to no longer need to feel shameful about having a diagnosis.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree that would be a much nicer world and easier for people to get along in.
Yes.
And yes, you know, that would be my hope too. And I like it that you have got a Hope Project.
Yeah, the Hope Project, our nonprofit arm, which we started about 5 years ago, is really to try our best to raise as much awareness as we can with the resources we have, but also to empower. So we've got lots of free training videos on YouTube. We have an online, totally free online resource platform. And we're also trying to help Dr. Alvin like strengthen the nonprofit services, because I think that's the other big thing is the accessibility of services. It is very expensive to have intensive high quality treatment programs, but you see how it also all kind of evolves, because the more awareness there is and the more legislation hopefully changes and policies change, then it can be something that is recognized as actually needs to be funded. It's something that in the US, some state governments fund it, insurance companies fund the treatment because you know how much impact it can have on the child. So hopefully that changes over time as well. But there are tons of nonprofits and charities trying their best. So what we are trying to do is just strengthen a bit more and share with them the resources that maybe they can't afford. But we're trying to pour out into them as well to help, you know, support their work with so many other kids.
Yeah, that's a wonderful effort. Thank you so much for doing that. Because tons of people within huge communities who are not able to afford even accessing help, isn't it, or even assessments. So yes, kudos to you for doing that, and we really hope that we get better empowerment to as many people out there to know what to do, so we can help as many people as possible. So with that, thank you so much for your time again, Jochebed, in talking to us.
Thank you, Dr. Alvin. Thank you so much.
For Autism Awareness. That's it then, folks. Stay tuned to our Autism Awareness Month activities. We've got lots, and just log on to our social media sites, especially LinkedIn, and let's see what we have.
Wonderful.
Okay then.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.